Hello, this is Stefan speaking. I'm here with CryptoTraders.com. Today's video is going to be about support resistance flips. So, when it comes to reading a chart, keeping it very fundamental and basic is very important. And it's stage one, and the importance of it, focusing on just the basics of supports and resistances and flips and how, you know, the basis of price action works. That's what today's video is going to be about. Okay. So first, I just wanted to start off with kind of a general understanding of what a support and resistance is. Um, so before I talk about that, I want to make it clear that within supports and resistances, you can talk about it in two ways. So you can have, you know, the support down here and then the resistance up here very standardly, right, when we're looking at from a down up point of view. But in the same note, it's important to understand that the market works in both directions. So it goes up and down. So if we're looking at it from a top down perspective and the downtrend aspect, then the supports and resistances would be opposite, right? Where the resistance would be on the downside and the support would be on the top side. So when I give these definitions, I think it's important to understand that it's on both sides. So first, we're going to talk about the standard support to resistance from a uptrend standpoint. So the support would be created by buyers entering the market whenever the asset dips to a lower price. The support line can be flat, slanted up or down, with whatever the overall price trend is. And then on the opposite side of that, if we were talking about as the top part of support, it would be where price at which pressure is reached on the way up on the emergence of growing number of sellers who wish to sell at that price, right? Um, so, that's kind of like what the resistance would be on this side, but I just want to reiterate the importance of, when you can like invert the scale and see the difference. We're just looking at, Bitcoin here. That's what we're going to use today to really talk about support resistance flips. So basically, when we look at price action from a standard basic point of view, we want to keep it simple. The cleaner your chart, the better. We're not using indicators. We're not using economic events. We're just focusing on supports and resistances. And so when we look at what step one is, when we talk about price action, that is what we're talking about, like level one, the basics, fundamental of price action. So when you have like reversals that occur, you have, where a previous support becomes a resistance and previous resistances become supports. So whenever you're looking at this, if you're looking at a day trading point of view, you can look as low as the 3-minute time frame, and then you can go up to the 15-minute, the 4-hour, and then the daily when you're looking at maybe validations or invalidations. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on a lower time frame. And one more thing I do want to reiterate is that price action traders, when we're looking at support and resistance flips, we want to put more value on recent price action than distant price action on every time frame, because the most recent price action is what's happening in the day, right? And as a day trader or as someone that is looking to take opportunities in the day, it's important to be able to evaluate it from that standpoint. So what I'm going to do today is we're just going to look at the most recent, and this is on the 3-minute, right, on Bitcoin, and today is the 20th of January. So what we want to do is we want to establish, it's a very simple way to do this, but we want to establish what is the low that created the highest point in local price action, right? We're looking at, basically, let's look at like a 24-hour period. So here's the, 9 to 9, essentially. So what we've identified here is that this is the low right here that created this high. So there isn't like specific exact lines, but basically the low that created the high, if you want to take that candle, then that's like your range. So this is what we would identify as the support that created this resistance here. So as we can see in this local price action, that it ended up flipping and using this support as a resistance for price breakdown. Now the first target you would want to do is what is the the low that created this here, and this is what you'd call swing of origin on local price action. So I'm not going to go too deep into anything besides just support and resistance in this video, but we do want to look at it from the aspect of so origin, swing, point of failure. So when you see this swing of origin a lot of times, this is where the first place where you could start to see a potential reversal or just a continuation of local downtrend. So I just wanted to show, how this simplistic setup is, because where a lot of trading opportunities are going to come from is an exact setup such as this, right? Because in this local uptrend that was happening, since 9, the other day, looking at 24 hours, where a real price reversal is occurring is, from this point. And, you'll see this happen, over and over and over. And it's one of the most standard ways to look at price action in charts. And it's very fundamental and it's very basic, and it can help with a lot of, setups. So then, what you can do is now let's go to the 15-minute, right? And let's, look at, other aspects on it. And you can see on the 15-minute, a lot of times, in the 3-minute to the 15-minute and even the hourly, the areas will be pretty similar. But the points of reversal are very significant when it comes to looking at this. So what we want to do is, we'll go ahead and just look at the hourly now. And looking at the hourly here, we can look at all this price structure. But basically, now we can do it from this point of view, right? So what is the low that created the highest point? So let's go ahead and clear the chart out. And, here's the low. Take the high of the candle here. So this is our support on a little bit of a higher time frame, right? And as you can see, we've had a clean retest of it as a resistance. So this is that support resistance flip that I've been talking about in this video. So you can see that this is now in, because when we look at price action, like we said at the beginning, we want to look at recent having more value over previous. So you can see on the previous, if we were to come all the way down, we did have basically right here, even though it is showing a green candle close, that this is the low that created this high here. And as you can see, then from that perspective, you would say, okay, well, we're still in an uptrend. Well, from what we're seeing here on this aspect, we are actually in a confirmed downtrend based on the simple fact of this support has now turned resistance, and now we are in a confirmed local downtrend, right? So then when we look at like even a higher time frame, let's go to the 4-hour. So, we can even look at it from a zoomed out point of view. And now let's come down to this area here. Okay, so we see this is the lowest point. So now we're flipping it, and now we're looking at it from a different perspective. So this is the high here. So this is a resistance or a support that created a resistance on the opposite end, right? Resistance being down here. This is the support on the downside move. So whenever we used the resistance now as a support, then now we have created an uptrend, confirmed uptrend. Even though it did take a while, we can see that every time we touched this area, we pretty much bounced off of it. I mean, this was from, basically the end of November all the way until when we really broke out, January 23rd. So, these reasonings that we see here, with the FTX drama and all that occurred, come into it, looking back, you can see that, we were already in a macro sense in a downtrend. But yeah, just the aspect of being able to identify this opportunity from a support resistance flip standpoint can really help you build that confidence to know that when we broke this, support to this resistance, and then now we are using this support, and it was flipped to the opposite end, and we are holding this now as a support rather than this being a resistance to the upside, then that is, that confirmed uptrend. And then, what you would want to target is, remember how we talked about the origin to swing to the point of failure? So we want to target a swing of origin. So when that happens, now we want to see, okay, so is the support going to be holding? And, then that's the uptrend continuation. This is just a large accumulation. And, so it is in an uptrend in the aspect on, some of these lower time frames. It's important to understand, though, when you look at it from now zoomed out even further on let's say a daily aspect, and now we're looking at, okay, what are the key daily levels? We can see, okay, so let's clear up the chart and let's look back to, okay, so this is really, a significant low point here at 17.6K in June. And, we can identify, key supports and resistance levels at these areas. So we see that this is the high, this candle here on the 17th, that created this low. As you can see coming into it, we actually did use this as a support. And then when we broke down, we ended up using this as, kind of like a resistance area to where we, continued down on the macro downtrend. So I can't reiterate enough how important it is to really focus on this aspect, and really, when you're looking at your charts, don't look at too many different factors and really focus on the fundamentals and the basics, because it can give you an idea, a more clear picture of what's going on in the market and that perspective. And even from a more, like we say with price action, we look at a more recent aspect. So looking at this whole move here, this is the high that created this low. So we are testing this high now, and we are testing this resistance area, with the lower time frame upswing. But any sort of move, let's say to a downside continuation or upside continuation, it starts in the lower time frames, right? And then it builds on itself and then goes to the higher time frames. And then you get these big upswing moves when you're testing these higher time frame supports and resistances. So yeah, like coming back one more time to like the 3 minute, you know, this is where you can really get nice day trading opportunities. And you can do this on any market. We look at what was the low that created the high. So support turned resistance, and then now we're in a local downtrend, and you want to just see that continuation. So when you're looking at these lower time frames, what I would do is I would look at little local areas such as this, right? So this is the high that created this low. So you can see that since this was broken locally, what I would recommend. This is just a tip or a trick. Is whenever this is broken, put at least a stop loss and profit PT portion here on your short, because you know that if this is breaking, then there's a possibility of potential local uptrend reversal, right? Especially with that concept that we talked about of the origin swing point of failure. So we have the origin being swung here. So a lot of times that's the first area where you want to potentially look for a setup to the opposite end. So from that perspective, looking right here, this is a potential reversal here, right? So a lot of times when you see very clean holds, it's a lot higher probability of that continuation happening. You can see here that we kind of broke through it a little bit. So even though we are coming up a little bit to the high side on this little local swing here, I wouldn't be surprised if we continue down on the downside. It seems like overall on price action here, we're kind of just having a little distribution up on this top range here, especially with those daily resistances. So yeah, the last thing I'm going to look at is a little bit of a higher time frame. So we're going to go ahead and look at the weekly. And looking at the weekly here, the weekly and the daily kind of do match up, but on the weekly and monthly time frames, you want to look back a little bit even more. And you can see, this is a key level here. And why is that? Well, I mean, you can see that this is a support turn resistance, right? That caused the next leg down on a little bit of a higher time frame, where all of this was supports for this, 60K, 70K levels, and you can see that. So, I mean, you can even, break it down in all those principles and things we talked about today. If you wanted to, do a study on these areas on lower time frames and see where these reversals occurred, with like lows and supports and resistance flipping. So yeah, this is the first part of price action that is very just the foundational level one. The second video that I will be talking about is the second step, and that is trend. So support and resistance flips turn into trend. So that will be the next video. If you found this video viable and you liked the information, please hit the subscribe button, so that you can and turn your notifications on so that you can follow the channel and follow these videos. I hope that you learn something and have a good, profitable day.